Good evening and good to have you with us in this edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, tonight we talk about social media once again and the impact that people can have via social media on various aspects of our life. Tonight though, we specifically talk about the boycott brigade, this cancel culture that has really picked up pace and is beginning to now define various values for our brands and our companies, the way they function, they advertise, and how they see their own values. And that's why it's important to talk about this cancel culture. And I'm going to talk about both sides and all sides. Whoever is part of this boycott brigade needs to think about it. Why are we talking about it? Well, there was an advertisement, a TV commercial put out by Tanishq, the jewellery brand. Now this ad was meant to symbolize unity. This ad was meant to show how people and families can come together and value, respect and embrace each other's religion. It's an ad where we see a Hindu woman dressed in traditional Indian attire at home with her in-laws and family, and there is clearly an occasion that is being celebrated. She is very lovingly taken around by her mother-in-law, who is a Muslim. The family members roaming around making preparations, and with each sight that they see about the preparations and what has been planned for the pregnant daughter-in-law gets happier and happier. At some point, she turns around and asks her mother-in-law, why are we doing this? This isn't even part of your family culture or your culture and traditions. To which the mother-in-law replies that taking care of her daughter is part of our culture. It's about a jewelry brand, but it's meant to promote unity. It's actually an entire campaign that Tanishq is looking at. But as this ad was released, there was massive response on social media and many netizens began to troll the brand. Many saw this as a conspiracy and a way of promoting love jihad. While I don't acknowledge this term as anything legitimate, but those who do say love jihad is where a Hindu girl is married into a Muslim household, forced to give up her religion and convert into Muslim, and this is the love jihad, a large conspiracy that's going on. And so began the outrage. Very quickly, in fact, the brand withdrew the ad. Tanishq, a brand, a company run by the Tata Group, withdrew this ad in the light of the backlash. Of course, the backlash didn't stop. Then it was the other side. Those who found the ad beautiful or didn't find anything problematic or didn't think that boycotting was a good idea, who began to then slam the brand for withdrawing the ad, for giving in to trolls. So you see, at the end of it, this brand has ended up facing the wrath of multiple sides. They've withdrawn the ad, and I want to take you through their statement, a statement that's just come out. The idea behind the Ekatvam campaign is to celebrate the coming together of people from different walks of life, local communities and families during these challenging times, and celebrate the beauty of oneness. This film has stimulated divergent and severe reactions contrary to its very objective. And I think there couldn't be anything more true than that. That a film which was meant to unite people and talk about how we are all together has actually divided people even more on social media. The statement goes on to say, we are deeply saddened with the inadvertent stirring of emotions and withdraw this film keeping in mind the hurt sentiments and the well-being of our employees, partners and store staff. This by itself, the last line, is a big statement. Here is a big Tata company brand, one of the biggest jewelry companies in our country, which says that we've withdrawn this film, not only keeping in mind the hurt sentiments, but also the well-being of our employees, partners and store staff. What have we come to? Is this the extent of hate and intolerance that we have? That a few of those who object to anything on social media can now decide and scare the biggest of our giants. And is that right? Was this brand right in withdrawing this ad? some of the questions that I have, not just about this case. We're going to talk about the larger cancel culture and the boycott brigade. And I will give you more examples as we proceed. But for now, let's quickly say good evening to the panelists who are joining us. Nandita Chalam, former Senior VP and ECD at JWT. Amir Sabarwal, Ad Guru and Executive Creative Director at Grey Worldwide. Rahul Dikuna, Director for Dakuna Communications. Anurag Naidu, a social activist, and Madhavan Narayan, senior journalist, also joining me this evening. Thank you all for being with us. Nandita, let's begin with you. And let's start with today's controversy. The reaction and the company's response to it. Was it the right way to go?
Tanvi, first of all, I really wonder how an ad which is aimed at promoting love and unity, how can such an ad create so much hate? It is something that I just cannot wrap my head around. Tanishq, as you know, has always taken up social causes. They took up widow remarriage, the most beautiful of their ads, where they showed this lovely dark-skinned woman. So they did two birds with one stone, promote the darker skin and the widow remarriage. They've taken up LGBTQ rights. And right now, the country is very, very polarized and there is so much hate right now. So they must have felt that the need of the hour is to counter the hate with something that promotes love and unity. And that is why they would have done this ad. And I feel extremely actually sorry that they buckled under the pressure and withdrew the ad, because if you stand for something and you believe in it, then you should have stuck to it. Of course, I do agree that this is something easier to say than do. If somebody is going to, if they did talk about the safety of their employees and shops, etc., obviously you don't want this kind of terrorism to happen. But I wish they had stuck to their guns the way Nike did when Black Lives Matter and Colin Kaepernick, they went through a similar thing. And people were burning Nike shoes, and there was the ban Nike hashtag, exactly similar. And then there was the other backlash. People started buying Nike like mad, and then the sales went up. I think the same would have happened with Tanishq. I wish they had stuck with the app. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your views. Nandita Chalam, they're believing that Tanishq should have stuck to their ad and stood by their view and what they wanted to put across. Rahul Dakuna, firstly, do you believe it's unfortunate that this kind of trolling is now leading the brands to rethink their campaigns? And was it wrong for Tanishq to give in? Now, given the fact that they are claiming that they did so, keeping in mind the safety and well-being of their employees and stores?
So, Tanvi, I have a fairly long answer because I've thought a lot about this, and there are two Rahul Dikunas that wake up every morning, right? There's the one Rahul Dikuna that is the social observer who looks at what is India going through at the moment. He writes plays about them. He's kind of responding to social media as a layperson and as a concerned citizen and as a creative inspiration, let's say. The other side is the Rahul Dikuna, the ad man, the marketing guy. And my answer to you has to be answered with both these Rahuls. So if I may just, Rahul Dikuna, the observer, is appalled at what is happening on social media at the moment. Okay, the toxicity, the trolling, the ability for a 16-year-old boy in Gujarat to be able to threaten Dhoni's daughter, or a man who can tell Bachchan as he's about to head to hospital, I hope you die. Now, that's reached another level where 5 years ago, these guys couldn't reach these celebrities. Today, they feel they can. And today, Twitter has given the anonymous India a megaphone. So that appalls me. It totally appalls me. But the other side is the marketing side, which I honestly feel we are not in any position to sit back and say, why did they take the ad off the air? Because at the end of the day, you are selling a brand. I don't think people really got that. That yes, perhaps they want to harmony and all of that is important, but at the end of the day, it's not a public service commercial. It is a commercial that is selling jewelry, and if the client and the agency and everybody feels that, look, the reason that we put this ad out has been missed, first of all, and number two, it's not helping the brand. So why should I wake up every morning to hear people criticize me and boycott this and boycott that, when actually all I'm really doing is trying to sell jewelry? Mm-hmm. So they're completely well within their rights to withdraw the ad, in the sense that it is, I don't know if it is counterproductive, but it's certainly not what they intended. And if they want to just back out and pull out, well, then that's what they do. Where in no way can we stand on judgment as far as I'm concerned. So that's my view.
Okay, thank you for being extremely honest and saying that you actually have multiple views on it, which is a very rare thing these days, to see that people can see both sides of his story. But to the point that you raised, Rahul, if I can take that to Madhav Narayan, because this also struck me as a possible strategy, Mr. Madhavan. Surely a brand and a company like Tanishq and those who make the creatives for them and conceptualize the ads for them, surely they would have known that such an ad would bring back some of this backlash in today's environment. They still went ahead with it and they put it out only to withdraw it so quickly. Is that all?
Well, thank you for asking me that question, because this is very close to my heart. But before that, let me congratulate my friend Rahul Dakuna, who's the brain behind all the Amul ads you love. That, Dakuna has pointed to a wonderful lacuna between the brand purpose and social values, as it were. So there is always a problem to solve. Are you in the business of business, or are you in the business of social reform? But let me get a bit cynical here with two things. One is, when the Parle group owned the Thumbs Up brand, and there was a war between Thumbs Up and Pepsi, which was trying to India, Ramesh Chauhan of Parle famously remarked, "It doesn't matter if you get your hands dirty, if you can wash it afterwards." Tanishq seems to be following that formula. Let me quote also my great admirable philosopher of communication, Marshall McLuhan of Canada, who famously said, "The medium is the message." I often think of him these days on what would McLuhan would have said about the social media. And social media itself carries a certain inherent message. It has its virality and conversation potential, which breaks the clutter in the new age, which means in the new age, stand out with an ad, you stand out with a conversation. So congratulations to Tanishq for figuring a conversation. But in the age of the social media, taking a strategic position often involves risk, just like you invest in a share market. There seems to have been a calculated backdrop discussion in the Tata Group Titan headquarters to do it this way. Because if you see, as Nandita pointed out, they've already had ads focusing on the LGBT theme as well as the widow remarriage theme. And therefore, they've already defined the brand attribute as something upscale and risk and modern and liberal, and something that promotes the recall of the brand in an age of social media clutter, where they're turning the media around to suit the brand at a risk. But their statement today, which you have read out, Tanvi, very clearly shows that by pointing out the plight of the employees, they have very clearly triggered a social debate, which is bound to have some kind of a positive impact. Nevertheless, it's a risky gambit. But as I said, in the age of social media, all you have to do is to put out the ad and withdraw it, but somewhere it will be going viral because somebody would have downloaded it and forwarding it on WhatsApp. So the brand has already achieved this purpose, if it is to promote liberal values. Let me last, not the least, play the devil's advocate and say that I can even argue that the brand actually promotes Hindutva because it is making a minority family adjust to majority values So rather than disunity, it promotes hegemony. So there are many conversations you can have on what you define by unity. Harmony is what they've tried to show in the ads more than unity. It's not homogeneity, it is harmony. Both people retain their identities while being harmonic with each other, which is a wonderful thing where I agree with you, Tanvi. So I am all for this ad. But very clearly, social media and the rise of right-wing politics tries to see something harsh everywhere, and there is a whole packing in packs, of wolves hunting in packs, and that is a matter of concern. But having said that, let's see that it's a social responsibility to promote brands. It's not just the brand's responsibility to promote social values.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I agree with you. It's not just their responsibility to promote social values, but Nandita, do you want to comment on this before I go to Anurag? On the possibility that this was also a smart thing to do. You've triggered the conversation, the ads out there, irrespective of whether you officially withdraw it or not, and so the job's really done.
Well, I would not like to be so cynical. I don't think they set out to, set off this trend of boycott Tanishq. But I also do believe that ads, like my dear friend Rahul said, that they're only about selling jewelry. It's more than that. Now, today, everyone wants to associate with brands that stand for something. And Tanishq is an urban brand. There are people who believe in this brand and whatever it says. So it is a little bit of wanting to sell. Yes, of course, that's your primary purpose. But you also want to be a brand that stands for something. Why do we love some brands more than others? Why do we love a Tanishq more than some other brand? So that was one of the reasons why I was saying that they should not have withdrawn the brand. And I don't believe that they set out that, we shall put it on air, then there will be this hangama and we put it off. I'm old, but not yet so cynical.
Okay, makes me wonder about where do I stand on this debate. But Anurag Naidu, comment on this. Fact of the matter is, cancel culture and boycott brigade has become something that companies, their brand positioning, their image department, their marketing departments are now very closely looking at. Is this a good trend?
Well, Tanvi, you kicked in a very good debate. Definitely, on a marketing side, I would not like to comment much. But Tanvi, if it was just about a normal ad, and I saw this a couple of days back, and I never thought so much about it. But today, seeing all the bigotry going around in social media and people commenting about it, I would agree and concede with the fact that there is a sense of negativity all around social media about this particular ad, and that's what made me think what's really wrong with this ad. And I had to really go through 3 or 4 times to really understand what's anti-Hindu or what's what's minority thing or what is between Hindu-Muslim in this whole ad. But I think the 75-80% of the ad has no problem, but the 20% lies in that body language of the lady in picture or the Hindu girl in picture. And she walks in a very uncomfortable way where she's absolutely surprised what's happening around. And then she's, already, she's made comfortable. And then she's told, this is all we are doing it for your happiness. And that happens after 1 year. And I think that is only 5 or 10% of the area which can kick in some kind of a debate. But otherwise, it is not about Hindu-Muslim marriage. By and large, it is not about the concept of India, as Mr. Tharoor was hinting at. Absolutely not. It is just trying to make some kind of a debate out of it. But I think more or less the issue is more got to do with marketing, as Rahul also rightly said. And I would fairly agree with him because, not often you get some kind of such a big image booster, just by putting out an ad and then removing it in just a fraction of days. And on Nandita's point, I would fairly disagree with one point which she made, that people also go to brands looking at the philosophy or what they bring as a whole, as an idea or the concept. But I think in jewelry, my personal experience has been Tanishq people go only for their collections. People spending lakhs would not definitely go with whether they promote Hindu, Muslim, whether they promote a black or white thing. That's why I'm going to go and buy jewelry. I think that plays a little bit of a low profile in case of Tanishq. But yes, it kicked in at the right spot. And one important thing which also triggers me is Hindu-Muslim traditionally in media sells like a hot cake. We have to agree with it. And in this TRP game, we've seen the situation that is prevalent in India right now. The debate is very much around the TRP game. The situation is very much around how do we break the stories. And obviously, Hindu-Muslim as a topic being a low-hanging fruit. There cannot be a better time than this for Tanishq to kick in a debate around this ad. And obviously they've played a very soft exit, and that's where we doubt the intention of Tanishq. I personally doubt the intention of Tanishq in doing this.
Amish Sabarwal, what is your view? Would you agree with what Anurag Naidu is saying here, that this always works? It grabs the eyeballs, and that's about it.
I can actually agree with Nandita more of the point she was making, that ultimately brands have been known for different things. Like we've sold sex, we've sold sexism, we've sold gender roles, and it seems to be fine. Why is there no debate on it at that point of time? The fact is that all our advertising and creative, at the end of the day, brand is using a creative medium to tell a story, and it can't do that in a bubble. It is dictated by the kind of place we are in today, the kind of sentiments that are there today. I do agree it should never even get into a Hindu-Muslim debate on this ad. That's the point that I do agree with. And on the second thing, on the brand, I feel that if a brand does take a stance, and over years it stands for certain values, then it should ride it through. And the soft exit then does make you doubt that is it just a ploy? Is it just one of the things that you do to get eyeballs? So I'm kind of mixed on this thing. I do disagree with Rahul on certain facts, saying that, see, a brand ultimately as a brand should hold on to certain stances. If it is business, why is things like sex, why are things like sexism, why are things like gender roles not being questioned? That's my bigger point.
Okay, but let's take some of the other examples. For example, if I can just read some examples. November 2018, there was a close-up ad which is about free to love. Again, they spoke about, they portrayed two interfaith couples, and both of those couples then having to end their relationship and the women really saying that the families had given priority to religion over their love and over our happiness, and that got badly trolled, heavily trolled in fact at that point of time. Then there was and I remember this one distinctly, the Surf Excel's ad around Holi last year, which was Rang Lai Sang. And it was a beautiful ad with little children really, and promoting harmony between children who wouldn't have even, otherwise see different religions as a problem. And that got badly trolled. It became a huge problem. Hindustan Unilever, was trolled not just on that brand but on multiple brands, and HUL actually repeatedly does this. They do get into trouble for some of their messaging. They had trouble even with the Brook Bond Red Label ad that they came out with in September 2018, and again in March 2019, where there was an ad around the Kumbh Mela, Apnon Ko Apnao. And that ad was actually about a man first attempting to abandon his father in the Kumbh Mela, but then realizing that wasn't right and coming back and then bonding with his father over a cup of tea. And they got massively trolled because it was seen as if Kumbh Mela is something that's completely bad, and Hindus are the ones who are abandoning their parents, in Kumbh Mela. Why do we? I mean, there's no point in asking why do we, but Rahul Dakuna, is there any safe way to have these ads? If we are picking up a social issue, there is in today's day and age bound to be some or the other backlash. Somebody may view it differently. Should we then bother about it at all?
Tanvi, so I want to shift focus slightly. And I wanted to quickly just take Nandita's point and just say one thing, that I'm not for a second saying that this is about business only. Nandita and I were working together in Lintas 20, 30 years ago. And we were taught something quite specific, which is that our bosses taught us that always look for a benefit for your brand that is not produced in the factory. right? So I'm not for a second saying that Tanishq is only selling jewelry. It's selling harmony, it's selling unity, and it's stuck with it. So I'm not for a moment saying that. I'm saying that they, at the end of the day, are selling jewelry. So they're saying to themselves that we don't necessarily want to get into this game. Now, my point is that I don't take the trolls very seriously. And you mentioned this thing about boycott. This boycott is a load of nonsense, because I want to understand when they say boycott this brand, who's going to boycott it? When you say boycott Tata or boycott whoever, what are you telling me? That you're going to boycott buying Tata salt for the next 100 years? What does it mean? It's an empty threat, which I feel that because of the negativity of trolling, not Twitter, trolling, and the relentless way that people bully and all of that, people tend to get nervous. So my point is that I only hope that this commercial has not been pulled out because of Twitter, because boycott the brand is not going to happen. You're not going to be able to boycott it for a long time. And I know this much, that the present Twitterati, netizens, whatever, have a very, very small attention span. Today they'll boycott you, tomorrow they'll boycott somebody else, and they'll buy you the third day. So there's no fear in that. There's no genuine belief for any PR company of any brand to really be nervous about that. You have to see it through. You have to see the fact that if you're going to put out a piece of work, and there is no doubt in my mind that Hindu-Muslim is a tricky issue in this time. Now, whether if I was writing this script, Nandita, tell me if I'm writing this script, that we must have at some point known that in trying to promote harmony, Hindu-Muslim is a tricky issue. Now, whichever way you go, if it had been a Gujarati wife walking into a Sindhi home, would it have been as controversial? So my point is that it's not so much about harmony. To me, this film is not about harmony. This film was about adjustment. This film was more about mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws. That's what I found brilliant. To me, this commercial was not selling jewelry. It was buying into the most interesting insight of all time, which is the problems that mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws have. And when a child is about to be born, that is a huge issue. So to me, I went there. But it's been made into something else. And trolls will look for anything to shout about on that particular day. Tomorrow they'll go after something else. So anyway, that's my point.
Right. In fact, I wanted to highlight this point as well, Mr. Dakuna, that, for me, when I saw the ad, it was actually a mother-in-law telling the daughter-in-law, ki beti ki khushi. And the term that's used, that irrespective of the religion or caste or economic or social, whatever background, at the end of the day, it's the relation and the happiness of your daughter that matters to us, and everything else just comes along. Unfortunately, that's not where the conversation went. But I mean, I would have been happier if that was the conversation or the message that people got, that here is a brand that's trying to actually talk about friendlier daughter-in-law, mother-in-law, mother-daughter relations. But that's not what happened. But let me ask you this question. The fact that the brand in its statement says that we're also doing it for the reason of, for the concern of our employees and our stores and staff, does that then take the debate outside of Twitter? It's not just, being scared or apprehensive about some backlash on Twitter by netizens who may forget about it tomorrow, but also wondering if you will wake up tomorrow morning to one of your stores being, targeted.
No, but that's the most brilliant. I mean, that's what great companies do. That's why Tata is one of those great companies, which it realizes that apart from Twitter, long before Twitter, there was the violence brigade, right? Long before Twitter, there are these guys who would go out with dandas and smash up the place. So Twitter has become a non-violent, vigilante brigade, right? So I find it quite remarkable on the part of the Tatas to say, look, it could impact the client. It couldn't impact us. It couldn't impact anybody, because there is the bully who's on Twitter and there's also the bullies on the street. And I think what this will definitely do, it is a very smart move on the part of the client, because it's not just arguing about about selling. It's about goodwill of our customers. It's about the health and the both.
Okay, Rahul, I'm really sorry, but we have a bit of a trouble with your network. We're losing your audio, so we'll try and fix that. But Nandita, would you want to comment on this aspect as well?
Yeah, I like the words that Rahul used, that the bully on Twitter can be handled, but the bully on the street
is bringing together a client, is bringing together an agency who's meant a filmmaker, it's a scriptwriter, it's the people, it's Twitter. And look at where this argument has gone. We've all debated this issue on so many levels.
Yeah.
I think because I'm a social observer.
Yes, I think we lost the line with Rahul in between.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think...
Right, I'm sorry, there was a bit of a communication gap. We lost the audio with you in between and then there was a lot of lag. Yes, but I got the point that Rahul Dakuna was making. Go ahead, Nandita. Yes.
Yeah, so I think the main reason why Tatas would have withdrawn the ad is, like Rahul was saying, that the bully on Twitter can be handled. In fact, social media is a good place to vent if it stayed there. Yeah. But the bully on the street, if somebody is going to be smashing up the Tanishq stores, that's a terrorism of a different kind. And for that reason, I can understand the practical reasons. I mean, I would have liked them to not withdraw the ad, but I understand the practical considerations that happen. I think Anurag Naidu said something else interesting. He said that the Hindu-Muslim unity is a hot topic. Just jump on it and your brand will sell. In fact, I think it's the opposite these days. I was on your panel when we discussed the Surf Excel. Anytime you attempt to do anything with Hindu-Muslim unity, there's a backlash these days. Yeah. And that is the saddest thing, actually, because ads which take up social issues and try to resolve them or try to present them in a positive light, that should be seen as a good thing, not as a bad thing. But I think with this constant backlash of anything that seems to promote unity, brands will also stop doing this. And that, to me, is the bigger and sadder thing. Problem.
Fair point.
Tanvi, I just would like to clarify. Yeah, Tanvi, I just would like to clarify Nandita on one point. Maybe there is a misunderstanding. I did not mean that by putting Hindu-Muslim thing out, you will be able to sell your product. I said the story would sell well in the media, and obviously it will grab people's attention. And I would just like to take this opportunity and elaborate a little bit on the bullying on Twitter can be handled, but not on the streets. I think that's a very wonderful point. I'll tell you, it also pushes me to think about the initial 24 hours of a reaction when this ad got 2,000 dislikes and about 500 likes. And we know that most of the reputed brands in India for their digital media and the digital media platforms, they go for reputation management. They have best of the agencies working and supporting them all throughout. And I think I'm very surprised to see a brand like Tanishq or any Tata-driven brand to get bullied organically. Whether this bully is organic or inorganic, that is also a concern that I'm actually thinking about. And if it is an inorganic way to really self-bully or maybe have a limited scope of bullying that you do with your fringe accounts, and then you make a soft exit, and then you leave that entire story open for a debate, and you take a moral high ground saying, boss, we are okay out of it, for the sake of the safety of our store managers and people, we're out of it, we don't want to get into it. But that's the point. We made it. Now Tanishq is back in the story. We really need to dig in whether this was organic or inorganic, because I really have not seen any big brand of late, being dominated by organic trolls, right? So I think that's some kind of a concern. I think Rahul can maybe speak more about it.
About organic trolls.
Okay, I do know that many of them have been forced to rethink their position or at least come out with more neutral explanations. And I remember a recent case which was not really directly linked to an ad, but it was about a telecom company and some user that had refused to be attended by a customer care representative who was of a certain religion. And soon after that objection, another customer care official was appointed to deal with her complaint, which was of another religion, and that became a huge controversy. Airtel was forced to come out and give a clarification that this wasn't basis religion, but that's how it really functions. Every time you call, you get a different representative who answers and attends to your call. So brands have had to either sometimes withdraw or clarify in a bit to assuage or assure all sides that they didn't mean to hurt the sentiments. Sometimes they should just say, no, this is it, this is our stand. I loved it when Zomato as a food delivery brand just said that no, we're not going to discriminate and listen to your demands about who should be delivering the food to you. For us, they're all the same irrespective of their religion or caste, and it should be. But Rahul, do you want to come in on that before I go to Madhavan?
I just wanted to say one thing, which is, I've been handling the Amul account now for next year will be 30 years, right? So I've been navigating this quite interesting campaign for 30 years through various Indias. What the way it was in the early 90s to where we are today. India has changed so radically that, and the Amul girl too has to navigate the bombs as they come, the landmines as they come. But the one area that I have learned over the years to stay clear of is religion. I'll tell you that honestly, because it's a no-win situation. We've become, whether you call it polarization, whether you call it touchiness, whether you call it, sentimentality, whatever you say, there's a no-win when your brand links itself to religion. You can talk about this. We are not a harmonious country. We are not. We're too big. There's too much going on. Too many fires have been stoked. We're too regional. There are too many communities. And everybody's touchy. We were fine. I always talk about, at least in Bombay city where I live, perhaps up to a point we were fine till the riots happened in 92, 93 and the bomb blasts. And I think that turned the corner a lot for us. So I'm not, if any marketer says, or anybody says, look, I want to do my communication and do it through religion. If I was in that creative room, Nandita, if you were in that creative room conceiving this campaign, I wouldn't make it about religion. I really wouldn't, because now the point is that having made the commercial, now this is something that they should have foreseen, frankly, because you know that this is a hotbed. Politics is a hotbed. Religion is even more hotbed. So I'd be surprised if Tanishq was surprised by what's happened, because there has to have been a backlash. They can't stand back and say, oh, I'm surprised by this.
Correct. Yeah. No, exactly the point that, I also made earlier. Yes. Yes, go ahead, Nandita.
Yeah, no, I understand that, like he was saying, we were colleagues at Lintas and maybe we wouldn't. In fact, I think in those early days, we were braver and there was no social media, so we could do things. But then at the same time, today, there is social media and advertising. We must know that advertising is a powerful tool. So if social change is something that you can attempt through advertising, why not do it? Because some things need to be changed. That's why I believe that if you can use advertising for social change or give a message, let's do it. It's not a bad thing. That's what I would like to.
But I just wanted to say one thing, that when you try and
Amish Sabharwal, I'm sorry, I wanted to go across to Madhavan Narayan, but I just want to quickly check with Amish, because I'm hearing here now two industry voices with huge amount of experience telling me that yes, you gotta navigate, you gotta be careful, but one says maybe shouldn't go there, the other says maybe we should go there. Amish Sabharwal, your view before I go to Madhavan.
Sorry, I think the debate heated up so much the phone fell. Can you guys hear me?
It will fall on its own.
Yeah.
You got a very, very active...
We can hear you.
It was one of those moments. I think this reminds me of the team culture. Like, we are all working from home, and this is what I keep asking people: can you hear me? And I think half the call goes in this kind of doing it.
But can you hear you on a global scale, or can you hear you on a Zoom scale?
Yeah, and Skype is okay. Yeah, coming to what you were saying. Sorry, I missed bits and parts of your question. Also, if you could repeat it a little quickly to me, and I could answer it.
No, I simply wanted to ask you if you believe that brands and advertisers, and those within the industry are being more cautious, and that this navigation is becoming more and more difficult by the day. Maybe they will think twice today about making such an ad than they did 20 years ago.
Yeah. I think the kind of culture we're living in today, there is a lot of polarization. There are a lot of hurdles that we have to think about. But surely in some parts, we are becoming braver too. I wouldn't say that it's only a downhill steep. We are taking issues of gender inclusivity in advertising. Yeah. We're taking issues of cyberbullying, which is what this case is about, literally. There are a lot of things that advertising and the millennial voice is getting stronger and braver on, and I'm very happy for it because I think there's so many mediums and ways to come across with them. But yeah, Rahul is right. With religion, with the things that matter, the brands at the end of the day want to do business, and they'll be like, we are not getting enough people. Someone is going to be polarized at some point of time. It's a sad state, but this has been our reality since I've joined. Maybe Rahul and Nandita's time, it was much more cooler, and I wish I was there then. But yeah, I like where it's going even now, but I wish we could talk about these issues even more openly with the kind of political background and the storm that we are in today.
So may I say one thing?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yes.
I've lost you, Tanvi. Can I say something?
Yes, okay. Rahul, if I can just come to you in a bit, because Madhavan has been trying to make a point. Let me just bring him in as well, and then I will come back to you. Yeah.
Let me quickly say one thing, that the trolls may be on Twitter, but the consumers are on Instagram. And second thing is that we are in the age where branding is beyond advertising and PR into social media management, and brands are corporate citizens, and they do have a responsibility as well as an opportunity in engaging social media. But as other speakers have pointed out, there are limits to that. But the real issue I would also like to point out is that the Tanishq has been controversial even in the past. It got into trouble with women's groups when it had a pro-dowry sort of an ad in Patna, which seemed to suggest that if you don't give good quality gold in your dowry, your daughter is in threat. So they are not babes in the wood. Let me be very clear on that. And while they may be wonderful corporate citizens promoting harmony, I would like to believe that there were conversations on the controversial aspect of this. If not, then I would say something wrong with the Tata Group. You need to have cynics in the brainstorming sessions. Whether they play the cynicism or defend it, it's a separate issue. So I will not buy the babes in the wood argument for Tata. Having said that, let me say that the bullying and the street level activities are matters of concern. Constitutional values are under threat. But we can take a tip from the Bajaj Group, which had this Hamara Bajaj ad, which was promoting harmony in non-controversial ways. Maybe brands should think of that. And also the fact that Mani Ratnam, a film like Bombay, which was on Hindu-Muslim marriage, in which the woman was Muslim, and we didn't see this kind of wolves hunting in packs. So some of it is defined by the times we live in, some of it by the brands and the mediums. But I think like a Picasso painting, this is becoming a complex thing to interpret. But I think there is a golden mean somewhere. Maybe the Bajaj are showing us the thing.
Mr. Madhavan, one thing though, and I think the problem is that no matter how they would have, what characters in what religion they would have picked, there would have been a controversy. But because you raised the issue of Bombay, I actually read a piece that was done by one of the online portals today that responded to many people asking, what if it was the other way around? What if the girl was actually a Muslim married into a Hindu household, what would have been the reaction of people on Twitter then? And this article goes into that and actually quotes or tells a story, which I don't know if it's verified or not, but they tell a story about what happened when Bombay was being released, and for similar reasons, there was actually a bit of a protest and a bit of a problem for the filmmakers here in the city of Mumbai. I don't know, but I found it extremely odd that people wanted to give us an example even from 25 years ago to try and justify something which is happening today. It shouldn't matter if it was even the other way around and there was outrage. It would still have been wrong. It would have still been wrong if the girl was a Muslim in a Hindu household and the Muslims were objecting to it. It would have been wrong. It's not about that, and that can't be used as an excuse to justify the outrage today. Why should there be outrage at all, irrespective of what those two religions are? It completely misses the point of harmony and unity that we are actually trying to. And maybe I feel maybe more and more brands should do it, but if they do it, they should do it with conviction. Then they should stand by it, irrespective of what comes through. Anurag, you wanted to make a point. Go ahead, please.
One very small point, Tanvi. In fact, that would have been my primary point where I missed on it. There's been a very high quality thoughts put out by the industry experts of ad marketing and branding. But as an analyst, I just want to put one thought. If you ask me whether I was totally comfortable by the ad, I would say no. And if you ask me what is it that really anguished you, I think the body language of the girl in the picture, the picturization and the whole concept, she was not very comfortable all throughout, Tanvi. There could have been a better picturization or better concept being made out by Tata.
Yeah, but Anurag, I really don't have any problem. I don't think it's the. I don't know what you mean by she wasn't comfortable. Were they trying to make a point there, or is it simply a woman, who in a setup where she doesn't know there is a surprise? That's 1 minute. Where she doesn't know that there is something that's being held for her. It's possibly a surprise. They have organized something. She doesn't know what she's in for. She is dressed up. It's also a new phase of her life. She's an expecting mother. It could be 100 other things. I am struggling to understand why you thought that was a problem.
I'll tell you why. If she was entering the house for the first time, newly married, it was all fine. Baby shower, 1 year down the line, she's totally stumped and surprised what's happening. That means something that was happening for the first time. And that was an unexpected reaction that the lady in the picture gave. The woman was absolutely surprised and it was unexpected for her. The question she puts out, ये तो नहीं होता था घर पे कभी, तो क्यों नहीं होता था? एक साल में ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं हुआ जो आज हो रहा है, तो ऐसा क्या एक साल में क्यों नहीं हुआ जो आज हो रहा है? So that is, I'm totally fine with the outer, as in totality, but I really have the problem with that particular part of it, Tanvi.
But I think
okay, you're entitled to your views, and if that's something that you got offended with 2-3 times after viewing it, completely your view, I would think वो बाल की खाल निकालने वाली जो होती है example, ये वैसा example है. Anybody who wants to comment on this?
Just a small point, anyone can talk about it, is when ads go for research, and when you show it to 10 people and you see it frame by frame, then they pointed out this person's body language isn't correct. So it can tomorrow become an ad for Crocin as well, कि उसको headache था. But I think you're right. It's a bal ki khal. By the end of the day, the bigger point that I do agree is that should brands be able to have a conversation, we as citizens, as creative people, talk about religion and unity, no matter where we stand. Why is it such an issue? That's it. Always makes me question that it's happened with comedians, it's happening with brands, it's happening with normal people, it's happening between friend groups and family. The entire the charging of this political scenario and how everything is like that really gets to me, and I do feel someone should take a stand. Maybe like Rahul is saying, not a brand because they want to sell, but
just one small.
Sorry.
With all due respect, Amish, with all due respect to the industry that you work for, 2,000 dislikes and 2,000 dislikes and 500 likes is a testimony to all the people who have reviewed that.
No, it isn't. It isn't. I disagree.
No, it's not. It's not.
No, it's not. If it polarizes, it's brilliant. I'm okay with it. If as many people hate it as like it, any good creative work polarizes, and it should. That means it's changing a mindset, which is good.
I want to come in.
or triggering a conversation, which is also good. I think we've just come to a point
It's
where
democracy.
we immediately become so polarized and so extreme or wild that there is no space for a civil debate and civil disagreement like we're having here today on Mirror Now. But I just want, yes, Mr. Madhavan, you wanted to make a point and then have a question for the industry experts.
I think I lost my track in the very interesting thing. We haven't had a real debate because we haven't even been shouting at each other. What is this? But,
and Amish's phone is already, responding to a heated debate. I was wondering what he was referring to.
I think it was what was to come. I think my intuition kicked in and we were talking about how the small things are going to happen. I think, I preempted it.
Okay, very quickly, one last question. Nandita, maybe you can come in. Does it matter, all of this online debate that happens about brands, does it at the end of the day impact the brands? Now, I'm not talking from a social or a conversation point of view, but purely from a business point of view. Whether it's the cancel culture, uninstalling the app, boycotting some product, does it work, or is it, like what was said on the panel earlier, something that we say today and forget tomorrow?
No, I think we would be very naive to say that it doesn't bother and it doesn't affect. It does. There is this social media has become such a huge animal that no brand can remain unaffected by it. Okay, but I do believe that brands that stand for something and take up social causes, in the long run, these will be the winner brands. Tanishq is one of these brands, which has always taken up social causes and, stood for something. So I just hope that what is happening right now doesn't make them change their entire style of advertising. Imagine from tomorrow you'll see Tanishq ads which just tell you buy this piece of gold jewelry, it is pure, it is best, and it is whatever. It would be boring. We like Tanishq because it stands for something. It makes a social point. Sometimes they may get into controversies, and yes, social media is something that does affect brands. Sometimes, yes, it may affect them for a short while, but in the long run, the brand's personality has to take social media into account. Otherwise, they will be a dull and boring brand that nobody talks about and nobody visits and nobody buys from.
One small point.
Okay, I think just to add to that, one of the first controversy that I remember, and I'm talking about the social media era now, was I think Snapdeal and a comment that their brand ambassador made that then led into such a massive campaign against Snapdeal and uninstalling Snapdeal or Snapchat, and people uninstall all kinds of apps. But it's just picked up pace, and it's happening more and more often, whether it's TV series on OTT platforms, whether it's online pharma companies or online retail companies, on all kinds of brands, food delivery brands, FMCG brands. Some or the other way, we're seeing more and more of these boycott trends emerge on social media. So again, Rahul, do you have a view on it, whether at the end of the day it impacts your business or even brand value in the long term?
So what's interesting, I was slightly, like I'm putting on a third hat, okay, which is a hat, which is the business hat. And I really like, there's an old saying about even bad news is good news. The worst thing is indifference, right? I mean, I haven't got the phrasing right, but it's to the extent that perhaps this commercial would have had impact or not had impact, but it's definitely had incredible impact and a lot of media attention without having to pay for it. I would really like to look at Tanishq sales in the next 2 months. I would really like to see whether, because this is the new India. I keep going back to that when Nandita and I were like 8 years old, which was about 100 years ago, it was very simple. There was no social media. We did an ad. We hoped that the consumer would buy it. And then there were sales. And then the budget went up. There was nothing else coming at it. It was like you reached your consumer and you reached out to him in a simple way, either through outdoor or through film or through press. today you not only have social media, but you've also got trolls and whatever. So the consumer has suddenly heard about this commercial. He's heard about the brand as well. And for most of the guys who were saying boycott this brand, they wouldn't buy jewelry in the first place.
Yeah, and they wouldn't be buying Tanishq for sure.
They wouldn't be buying Tanishq for sure. So it's all so higgledy-piggledy that I want to really know at the end of the day, I'd love Tanishq to do research. They must do a research at the end of October, at the end of November, at the end of December, especially since we're going into Diwali and Dussehra. And I don't know, man. I would really like to know. My hunch is the sales will have really skyrocketed.
It would go up. Is what I'm also pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally want to go back to some of the brands who faced it in the past as well and ask them of how many, what kind of impact, if any, did they see on their business when all of this happened. And if it didn't, if it just made some noise and it just started some conversations, well, then that's great and that's fine. What is, of course, the only concerning part for me in all of this is Tanishq saying that they also withdrew this ad for keeping in mind the concern for their employees and their staff members and their stores. And if genuine law and order issues and fear of safety begins to play on the minds of companies and impacts their business strategies or communication strategies and brand values, so to speak, then that's a little uncomfortable for me. All the noise on social media, I think Tanishq can just learn from a lot of us who face this kind of trolling on a daily basis, and it doesn't matter to us. And maybe that's what some of the brands also need to start doing. You stand for the values you believe in, and you stick by it irrespective of what is being told to you on social media. I've had a lovely conversation. Thank you to all of the panelists who joined me here on this conversation. It's been a very, very interesting chat to have about an issue like this. Thank you to our viewers for joining in as well. I just want to quickly point out the fact, if you haven't watched the ad, it's officially withdrawn, but it's available everywhere on social media, and more people are actually sharing it. Those who liked it and believe that this was a good ad, they are actually sharing it, so you can go and still watch it. The line that I thought made sense to me and stayed back with me is the lady, the mother, saying that बिटिया को खुश रहने की रस्म हर घर में होती है. And in our country today, that's something that we really need to take as a message. Your daughter's happiness, your daughter-in-law's happiness, the happiness of a daughter does matter in every household, should matter in every household. That's a beautiful message to think about, really. Forget the caste, religion, and any other controversy that you're trying to look for in this ad. Thank you so much for joining us.